The Toronto Sceptres lose 2-1 to the Boston Fleet in Boston, and after a week between their previous game and this one, you think the Sceptres would have had time to practice and rejig and retool and figure out what is working and what's not working, and drill in some strategies and new plays and new fundamentals. And it was a lot of the same. A lot of the same issues, a lot of the same weak points, and it kind of got amplified 3 minutes into the first when Darryl Watts took a hooking penalty. Before Toronto can even really get their feet under them, they're already shorthanded. Boston, I do believe, actually did score on this power play, but it was determined there was goaltender interference, and it got waved off. So Toronto catches a bit of a lucky break there because Keller obliterated that puck. Just cruised right by Kirk's glove. But now they struggle to get going a little bit, Sure, there was the power play, but at the 10-minute mark of the first, the shots were 9-1 for Boston. Toronto couldn't get anything going. They turned it up a little bit in the latter half of the period, but then, 16 minutes in, Jesse Compher gets a penalty called on her. I thought this one was kind of BS. Let me know what you all think. It was called holding. She was trying to get body position, right? The puck is going into the boards. She's going into the boards. The Fleet player's going into the boards. I don't remember who it was. They're moving in. She puts her hand on the player's back, right? That player then proceeds to fall over. It was pretty clear by watching it. She didn't push her or nothing. It was just body position. She puts her hand on her back, Fleet player falls over, gets called a holding. Even if you're going to call a penalty on that, it's certainly not holding. But anyway, she goes to the box. Toronto kills that one off too. Annoyingly, as Compher's penalty is finishing up, the puck is moving past the box. So Compher steps out, gets her stick on the puck because it's right there, but she still had a foot in the box. You can't be half on the ice. So she gets out of the box, immediately turns around and goes back in. And that winds up carrying over into the second period. It did not take long for Boston to regain the lead that they probably feel they should have had in the first anyway. Well, it wasn't technically on the power play. It was I don't even think Compher would have managed to step foot on the ice yet. The door had opened and the puck went in from a shot from Haley Wynn, who's an insane rookie. She's so good. It gets by Reagan Kirk, and there's Boston's 1-0 lead. Middle period, the second period, it was not very eventful. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of pressure from both sides, but neither team really did anything with it. It was just a lot of zone time. There weren't a whole lot of shots. There's one penalty, 16 and a half minutes in, Ryland McKinnon, former Scepter, took a tripping penalty, and Toronto couldn't make anything of that because they have the worst power play in the league. It would stay 1-0 going into the third, and Toronto finally, in the third period, decided to start cooking with a bit of gas here. They really started to pour it on. 2 minutes into the period, Sophie Shirley took a tripping penalty. Great start for Toronto. They're invigorated a little bit at the beginning of the period anyway, because they're down 1-0. They need this win. They come out swinging. Boston takes a penalty. Now they're on the power play. They have more pressure. Let's go. Still can't make anything of the power play. But they have oomph. They have the pressure. They're getting shots. They're not letting Boston do a whole lot when they get the puck. So they're really going at it here, finally. Callie Flanagan takes a delay game penalty just in her own zone. Not really under any pressure, just tries to bank the puck off the glass and into the stands. Boston power play. While Toronto is still killing that, Emma Motte goes in for a board battle, kinda can openers, one of the Fleet players, like, she kind of put her stick under the arm and, like, braced against the back of the hip, honestly, and kind of just, like, upturned them. So she gets called for hooking. Not great. 5-on-3 for, I think it was about a minute. That's a tricky one to kill. But Toronto's penalty kill has been alright. And they manage it. 10 minutes into the third period is when things got weird. They got annoying. They got frustrating. Toronto really turns up the physicality if they're losing. There are two theoretical reasons for this. One, they're trying to inject life into their bench. Two, they're trying to make the opposing team fight back and take a dumb penalty. Right? They really skirt some lines. They get really rough. So just like they did in the New York game, 10 minutes left in the third period, they're laying hits. You know, they're playing the body. They're being really aggressive. They're not giving Boston any space. And, you know, after a few of these in quick succession, puck coming around the boards on the half wall, and Sophie Shirley of the Fleet takes a silly little hooking penalty. Awesome. Toronto's going on a power play. Great. Until Malte gets called for body checking. Now, I know there are illegal body checks in the PWHL. Obviously, I know that. This wasn't one of them by any metric. Like, you can't do open ice hits. Okay, you can't do cross-directional. Okay, you can't do away from the puck. Obviously, you can't do direct head contact. This was none of those things. It was along the boards, moving in the same direction. The puck is right by their feet. Malte kind of just rubs her out, like kind of, you know, forearm, elbow-ish sort of area. It wasn't an elbow, like, but that sort of area. And that gets called as an illegal body check. And I didn't get that at all. Like, at all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Toronto takes a lot of penalties. I won't deny that. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're completely getting jobbed all the time and the league is against them. I'm not trying to say that at all. They take some dumb penalties, and a lot of the penalties in this game were real and fair and obvious and indisputable. The comp for holding was fabricated, and the Malte penalty that's not a call. That check is not a call. She rubbed her out along the boards. There's nothing wrong with that. Why that was called a penalty, I do not understand. But what should have been... Now, mind you, not that Toronto's power play is really anything to get excited about, but what should have been an advantage for Toronto wound up being a 4-on-4, and it does give them some space. It led to a couple of good chances, but ultimately, it goes back to 5-on-5. It evens up with no change in the score. 5 or so minutes after those 4-on-4s resolve, Toronto, putting the pressure on, means they're pinching a little bit, which means Boston has more opportunity to get moving the other way. And they have a bit of like a 3-on-3, 3-on-2.5 type of situation. Saulnier has it along the boards, passes it into the middle for Maloney, takes a good shot. Kirk makes a really good save, but Maloney's able to pick up her own rebound and put it over Kirk's glove. Now it's 2-0 for Boston. A minute and a half later or so, when Toronto pulled Kirk for the extra attacker, just relentless kind of puck battle, whacking and thwacking at it. They eventually get it through Frankel, a dirty, greasy goal, but hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And Malte managed to poke it between Frankel's pads into the back of the net. 2-1. There's still a minute and a half left. Lots of hockey left. Toronto continues to apply pressure, pour on the shots, but they can't get anything else. 2-1 in regulation. When I've been pointing out that Toronto's offense runs from their blue line, they take shots from the point and try to filter them in, get a rebound, if they can get to the point at all. That is their strategy. In the post-game, after the New York loss, Troy Ryan said, well, we're getting a lot of shots from the point, you know, it's not good, we need better chances, we need better looks, and it's like, that's clearly the strategy. if you're setting up systems and ways for the team to play and drawn up plays and positions to be in, they're not going to ignore that, right? Obviously, there's the situations on the ice, but they're going to at least endeavor to get somewhere close to what you're telling them to. But it's every time. If Toronto's running their offense, it's from the blue line. That exact same thing happened this game, but they walked in more. That's it. Like, instead of being way back at the blue line, they kind of just walked it up to the top of the circles. That's basically it. But fundamentally, it's the same thing. You're just 10 feet closer. And it's the same results. No goals, right? Like, the team has goal scorers, obviously. You need players out front of the net, for one. I think shuffling the lines might have helped a little bit. Dalton went up to the top line with Turnbull and Watts. Comfer centered Malte and Spooner. That's the lines they left off the third period of the New York game with, so clearly Troy Ryan sees something there. The team's offense is stale and it's slow. One thing you notice when Boston is working their offense, they're moving the puck around a lot, and they're quick. If it's getting passed to Keller or Wynn especially, they're taking the big one-time clap bomb. When's the last time you saw someone on Toronto take a slap shot? I think there was one this game, maybe? Out of 22 shots? And when they do, it's usually coming off the bench and a puck is kind of just drifting into an open area and they really lean into it, and that's great. But you're not getting those big one-timers. They're not surprising the defense. It's always slow, and they kind of walk it in, and they maneuver their feet a little bit, and then they try to sneak one through. And it's not working, because it's too slow. The goalies are set. The defense is set. They know what's coming. What do you expect? You think you're just going to kind of blow one by Aaron Frankel? Are you out of your mind? No! Of course not! Like, the team can't score, and it's blatantly obvious it's because their offense is just lifeless. And there's one thing that I noticed, and I did a little digging. I did a little looking over Toronto's past 3 games. So they win the Montreal game in the Bell Center, and then there was the loss to New York, loss to Seattle, and loss to Minnesota. All home games, by the way. And I wanted to look at something, because they pointed out on the broadcast tonight that 6 of the top 8 leaders in ice time were playing in this game. 2 on Boston, Keller and Wynn, which who can blame them, and 4 on Toronto, Fast, Shelton, Harmon, and Flanagan. They're top 4D. If literally half of the top 8 leaders in ice time are on Toronto, what is their bench looking like? What is the ice time? So I compared the lowest ice time, like what player had the lowest time on ice for Toronto, compared to what player had the lowest time on ice compared to New York, Seattle, Minnesota, and tonight against Boston. Against Minnesota, 3 games ago, lowest time on ice was Hannah Baskin. Didn't play a shift. 0 minutes, 0 seconds. Lowest time on ice for Minnesota was Vanessa Upson, who had 4:47. Bear in mind, a shift is between 30 seconds and like a minute 20 is a long shift. You usually sit around 45 seconds. So kind of math that out, right? That's like, 6 shifts? Versus Seattle, the Hamilton takeover game. Lowest time on ice for Toronto, Jess Condis, 3 minutes and 16 seconds. So that's 4 shifts? Lowest time for Seattle, Lily Delianidis, I hope I'm saying that right, 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So 1 shift shy of twice as much ice time. Versus New York, their last game, 2-0 shutout. Claire DeGeorge, 43 seconds, 1 shift for Toronto. New York, Dale Ross was their lowest time on ice, 6 minutes 47 seconds. That's a lot of ice time. Tonight, in Boston, lowest time on ice, again Toronto, Claire DeGeorge, 2 minutes 13 seconds, so more than 1 shift. That's an improvement. But Sophie Shirley was Boston's lowest time on ice, was 6 minutes and 46 seconds. Your players are going to be more tired if you're shortening the bench. Like, you're just playing with one less player than they are. Every game. What do you think is going to happen, Troy? If your players are more tired, They're already a bit demoralized because of how the season is going. You think sitting someone, like borderline benching them, is going to be helpful? Why are you shortening your bench? None of them are like liabilities. Do you think DeGeorge is a bad player? I don't. I think she's fine. Lowest time on ice in 2 games. Yeah, she's the 13th forward. That earns you more than one shift. You know, what do you think everyone I listed off from the other teams is not a 13th forward or a 7th defender? Of course they are. They're still getting 4, 5, 6 minutes a game. I maintain, I said it last game, I'm going to say it this game, I don't think the problem is the players. I think the problem is the system they're being told to play in. It's stale. The team can't score. We know they're talented. We know they can. How many of these players made the Olympic roster? How many of these players were on the rivalry series roster? Not that that went well. I think they're being coached in a stale, stagnant, predictable system, and it's just killing them. Then when they're trying to make their own life, when they're trying to make a bigger play that can exist outside of that system, when they're trying to be more eager, because maybe if they just keep banging away at it, something will happen, then they get a little too aggressive and they wind up taking a penalty, and it has the opposite effect. That's all I have for you for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want more. Our next game is Battle on Bay Street. Let's hope they don't blow it.